Hi, this is Luke Charlton, and welcome to this week's episode of the Elite Entrepreneur Show. As you can see, it's raining again here in Philadelphia, so we're inside with this absolutely horrible lighting again. But that doesn't matter. The show goes on, and I'm really looking forward to bringing on our guest this afternoon on the Elite Entrepreneur Show, which, of course, this week's episode is about taking the big steps that you need to take in order to grow your business in 2014 and beyond. But before we get into that, if you've never seen the show before, the Elite Entrepreneur Show, we go live every single Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Pacific Time, or 8 p.m. British Summer Time, or if you're watching from Australia, like where I'm from, it's really early in the morning. But we go live from the EliteEntrepreneurshow.com. I'll put the link up here. So if you just head to that link there, and the reason why you want to go to that link every Thursday is so you can come and interact live with me and with the elite entrepreneurs that I bring on the show for you. Because this show isn't about me, it's not for me, this show is for you, the viewer, to help grow your coaching, consulting, speaking, or training business. So take advantage of this live and interactive Google Hangout by coming to EliteEntrepreneurshow.com and typing your questions down below in the Q&A box below this video. Now, of course, if you're watching a recording of this, on our blog at zagcoaching.com, you can always put some of your aha moments from the episode. I'd love to see your aha moments from each episode, and we'll be able to reply to those as well. So this is the Elite Entrepreneur Show. And first and foremost, this is about changing lives. You know, we as coaches love to change lives, and that's why we got in the business in the first place. So that's first and foremost what the show is about, helping you to be able to change lives. And the second part of this show is being able to live anywhere, being able to run your coaching business from anywhere in the world, your favorite spot in the world, whether that's a luxurious or exotic location such as Costa Rica, or maybe from a yacht, or maybe even just your favorite coffee shop down the road. That's the great thing about having a coaching business. And finally, becoming the new rich is where your business, and this is what the show is about, having a business that works for you, where you're not working in the business, where the business is working for you, which gives you that ultimate choice. Ultimate choice is really coming down to ultimate freedom, and that is essentially what the show is about, showing you how to grow a coaching business that works for you. So I've got some, before we bring on our guest, we'll go into the next segment that we do every single week, which is kind of what I've been doing over the past week. Since our last show. But before we get into that, there's some amazing news that I wanted to share with you that I'm really excited for. This has been a long time coming, and that is, and wait, I'll do a screen share, so just give me a second. And that is that New South Wales finally, after 8 years of losing our yearly challenge against Queensland, after 8 years, 8 straight losses, we finally win the series in Sydney last night. It was absolutely amazing. Whether you care about that or not, that's another thing, but really excited. I think I shed a few tears when we won. That's the boys winning. And how did my team, the Roosters, go on the weekend as well? Well, they won. They played absolutely crap, but they still won, still beat the Knights, which is awesome. Who have we got next week? We've got the bye. So hopefully we'll go good against the bye, but I will keep you updated on that for next week. So what else was I doing over the past week? Well, usually I'll show you a photo of where I've been running my business from, but this past week I actually ran an event, a one-day intensive in Philadelphia, where people actually flew in from across the country, which I'm hugely grateful for, to participate in an amazing business acceleration intensive, where I showed them how to position, create, and sell high-end, long-term high-end coaching programs without needing a website, an email list, even a certification. And they were absolutely blown away. And we even had a couple of really top experts, such as Terry Levine, presenting on the day as well, one of the top business coaches in the world. So that was awesome, awesome. Let me just bring you back. Whoa, it's all dark. So that was an amazing day last Friday. So that's what I've been doing since our last show. And speaking about big steps and taking big steps in your business, which is what today's episode is about, that putting that event together for me in Philadelphia, we've only been here since end of the beginning of May. So a little over a month to put that event together. Now that was a huge step for me, but it was a step that I knew that I needed to take in order to build some momentum in my business here in Philadelphia, which is where I'm moving to start building a network and building contacts, just like I did in London when I moved last year. With no friends, no family, no network, to grow my coaching business there. So I'm really excited to bring on today's guest, talking about how we go about taking those big steps, the big steps that you need to take in your business that scare the absolute shit out of you, but you know that you need to take them in order to grow your coaching business. So I'm hugely excited to bring on a guest, which he has an extensive background working with IBM. He's actually been in also real estate investing, and now he's become a coach to help people just like you take these big steps. So I'm really interested to know how he eventually became a coach to help other people take those types of big steps. So let me please welcome Byron Watts onto the show. Byron, how are you going, mate?
Hi, Luke. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
No worries. It's a real pleasure to have you on the show. So first of all, before we get into, I know you got some amazing systems that we're going to discuss on your proprietary systems and how you take those big steps. But first, how did you become an entrepreneur, and how did you get into coaching around that area?
Well, Luke, I always thought of myself as an entrepreneur type, but I went the traditional route: go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and have a good life. And ran into some bumps and roadblocks, and things didn't go quite the way I expected.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, I worked for IBM for almost 18 years with IBM, and then I worked an additional 3 years with Siemens, another large company, and struggled because I was finding myself trying to hold on to a job that was disappearing. Basically, my position was outsourced and went away. So I suddenly was introduced to the contractor type of lifestyle, which basically you end up being an entrepreneur, although you don't always think of it that way. It turns out that I wasn't really prepared for that kind of lifestyle from my background, and it wasn't until after I got through some of those bumps and bruises that I discovered some of the root causes for what was going on in my life, and I ended up needing a coach to help me through that. And the way that I got into coaching in particular is to help people who are stuck. They don't really understand what's going on, and they need some support.
So with you mentioned that your job was kind of dissolving, or moving away in IBM. So it's almost like that you were, coming back to taking these big steps. It's almost like you were forced to take a big step that maybe you did or you didn't want to take. So with coaching, where do you find, first of all, that that people get stuck in life in general and taking these steps?
In my case, I found that the education that I received didn't really prepare me for the next big step. Mm-hmm. It produced go to work, do your good job, and follow the rules. Don't make waves. Keep track of the status quo, and life will be good for you. And the thing that I ended up being stuck with is believing that I could, because the educational system, as you probably have experienced, or many people have experienced, doesn't really encourage you in what you're good at. It kind of pounds you in what you're not so good at. Get better in math, or get better in the thing that you're not good at so that you can pass. Yep. Instead of, wow, you're really a great writer, or you're an excellent speaker. So all of a sudden we're forced to bring our marginal capabilities up to some norm defined by somebody else, and we really don't get the opportunity to excel at anything because we're too busy trying to fix the stuff that's broken. So the educational system doesn't encourage us, or hasn't in the past encouraged us, to take risks, to take the next big step, to understand that when you get into a work environment, success requires taking risks. If you don't take them, you're stuck. You can't make successes if you can't experience failure. The other thing, a couple other things actually. One is the support systems that I had weren't sufficient, and I got stuck because I didn't have anybody watching my back or helping until I got a coach and tried to figure out things that I needed to get through,
Yeah.
and work through those issues that were holding me back.
Well, there's a few really amazing nuggets that what I love is what you just said. Can't experience success if you don't experience failure. And I think that is so true, especially in business. And I think that's why a lot of entrepreneurs and coaches, consultants fail, is because they're not conditioned, as you mentioned, or not educated that in order to be successful, you need to be able to take risks. And so if we can go back and there's another thing that you mentioned that I want to touch on as well, which I believe is true as well, as you mentioned that we have to be focusing on science and maths, on areas that we may not necessarily be strong at in school just to pass. And we're not really educated around being able to leverage our own strengths. And I think that is so true in business as well, of any entrepreneur just focusing on what they're really good at instead of focusing on what they're not good at and trying to bring them up to par, which means you're kind of crappy and mediocre in a lot of areas as opposed to really amazing in just a few. So coming back to defining taking a big step, what does that mean to you?
Taking a big step requires and includes understanding that the system that you have used up to this point is failing you, and you need to create new systems and new mindsets. New vision is another way of looking at it, to move forward and to make progress. One of the things that I focus on is the vision magnified activity, the thing that you really are the best at. And I find that those things you can do 10 times better or get 10 times more done when you're focused on the thing that you love and you're best at, rather than trying to keep up with everything else. An awful lot of people weren't really taught to hand out the stuff that they're not good at. And in fact, one of the things that I find really interesting right now, which is the notion that those rich people are so stuck up they have people doing all their dirty work. And frankly, it's not the dirty work that needs to be done by the rich people. It's the dirty work that they don't have to do, so they can focus on the vision magnified activity that makes them successful.
That's right. It's like just focusing on the 80. I always come back to the 80-20, the law of 80-20. Just focusing on the 20% of your activities that are going to get you 80% of those results, and if you can, delegating the rest of the activities that aren't really bringing you the returns that you need. Right. So you mentioned about focusing on strengths. Does this come? What I want to do, actually, I didn't let you know, I actually have your SDM model, and I'll bring it up on the screen, because what I'd love to do is just go through each of those steps on how you take your clients through these different steps to create a new big step in their life or in their business. So hang on, I'll just share this again. Just give me 2 seconds. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, Byron. So can you see that on your screen, Byron?
Yes, I can.
Okay, do you want to just talk us through each of the steps that you take people through?
Sure, I'll go through it briefly. The Killer Secrets Discovery System is specifically looking at the things that we stumble on, the stumbling blocks that we need to turn into building blocks in our life. One of the key things that I focus on is blind spots, and the thing about a blind spot is you don't know it's there, so you can't deal with it because it's not a problem to you yet. And then obviously we have to go through denial. Once we realize that there's a problem, we have to own it before we can make progress. The other piece of that secret is really finding what you're good at, what your vision magnified activity really is, so that you can focus on your strengths and get the 10 times or more better results or faster results in those areas. We actually work on that further up in the system as well, but we have to find out what our strengths and abilities are and understand the definition of success. Sometimes we get confused about success, and we have a very nebulous and vague concept of success as being a millionaire, and that doesn't really mean anything, especially now when money is worthless. That's another matter. The mind shift conversion system, we look at fear and negativity and the way the mind tends to we talk to ourselves. We go through the system of clarifying why are we having those negative things going on? How are they affecting our life? And is it possible to turn off that negative voice in our head, or to deal with that problem and to get it resolved? Those kinds of things. And then we need the support system and the people that encourage us as well to build those new mindset strengths in, and have the backing support to make them a part of our life. The value shift identification system, we look at some of our distractions and addictions keep us from making progress and having success, and we obviously may have those as blind spots in many cases that we look at under the Killer Secrets discovery system as well. But the intentions and actions and a contribution brings us much closer to what we were meant to do and to be. I believe that everyone was created for a very special reason and has a specific purpose that they can accomplish in their life, and it's far more than mediocre. The vision shift motivation system is when you're focused on your vision magnified activity, you don't have to settle for mediocre, and the life of quiet desperation that so many people struggle with and really don't know how to deal with, can live a fully engaged and fully alive life, moving forward at the vision magnified activity speed and offloading many of those things that we struggled with before, perhaps having someone come and do house cleaning because we're not very good at it, or it takes time that we really don't want to invest. The other thing that we want to be careful about in this whole system is balancing values and the systems with the people in our lives that matter to us. And I forgot to mention that under the value shift piece, where we really do put people in our equation of what success means and how we live our life in a relationship, because frankly that's all there is. If we don't have relationships and we don't have support and we don't have connections, we're struggling all around, and we really don't have a way to move forward because we're isolated and alone. And the maverick can't succeed. In many cases they will fail, utterly fail, and end up in places that we don't even want to think about. Going on to the life shift action system, it's moving from working hard to working smart, putting that vision magnified activity and the vision shift into action, making it happen so that the legacy that we leave is built on our strengths, and we have something that's worth standing up for, living for, and enjoying as we move forward. We're not stuck in that mediocre life where even the president promises that things are going to be less good. And frankly, when you're in a paradigm shift, you need a life shift.
And thanks for going through that for us, Byron. So let's say, so this is the system that you take all of your clients through, is that right? The step-by-step system?
That's one of my systems, yes.
Okay. So let's say, what are the three main challenges that your clients come to you with, that you see that hold them back from getting that vision that they want, of moving themselves towards that vision? What are the three major problems or challenges that you see, and what are three applicable strategies that the viewers watching can use to kind of help them take that next big step towards their vision?
Truly, the belief that something different is possible is one of the biggest challenges, because the structures that you grew up in don't really support anything different than the status quo, because anything different than the status quo threatens everybody in your life who's used to the old way. That paradigm shift and life shift happen with struggles from other people as well as from yourself. So it's not just an individual that's struggling to move forward. It's trying to get clear and get support. And the support is the second thing, where you don't have support from your family structure in many cases. Frankly, I didn't have the support that I needed to move forward, and that caused some of those ripples. And I'll make an offer available shortly that we'll talk a little more about that if someone's interested.
Mm-hmm.
The support systems have to be there. You can't succeed on your own, especially when you're going through a life shift. You have the opportunity to be either bitter or better, and the bitter is sort of rampant in our society, and it doesn't work. People who are complaining all the time are failing all the time and just blame someone else for their failures. The third thing, we really feel overwhelmed and stuck because we don't know what to do, and that's part of the whole thing, where the support and the encouragement has to happen, but you need clarification on what's out there. We yearn for something bigger because we know it's out there, but we don't really know how to get there because we need a coach.
So the third one is not having a coach. Is that right?
Primarily, yes. We need the support and the encouragement of someone who's been through the struggles that we're trying to go through and moving forward through them at least 10 times faster than we could ever consider doing it alone. And most people can't do it at all.
Mm. Mm. And okay, so the second one was no support, I believe. The third
Right.
one was around not having a coach. What was coming back to the first one, just so we can kind of clarify that?
The belief that something better is out there, and understanding that it's possible for you.
Okay, so you just mentioned that it's very hard to fight against the status quo, um,
Exactly.
so ingrained, and that's going to be a strong belief for a lot of people to break. How would you? What are the first steps to helping someone, um, have that, to get that belief in themselves that they can achieve what it is that they want to achieve?
I believe that truly the first step is to clarify the blind spots that are holding you back, the things that are really blocking you, that are causing you grief, and you don't even know what they are yet. For some, in my case, a huge ego can destroy your ability to connect with people, and since relationships are everything, not being connected to people will destroy any possible success. You can egotistically have some level of progress, but it's not nearly the same as having people know, like, and trust you. It just can't happen.
So, that's right. That's fascinating. So building relationships, number one, and clarifying blind spots. I said you mentioned first. So
Right.
how would one go about clarifying blind spots? Does this mean that they have to? I mean, I'm a coach myself. That's why they're called blind spots, right? Because we can't, we don't know that they're there. So would that be working with a coach to clarify those blind spots?
There are other ways to find what your blind spots are. Having a coach is perhaps one of the better ways, but the people in your life actually are not unable to tell you. They can see your blind spots when you can't. So your spouse or partner may say, you're just not cutting it here. And one of the things that I say is, if it makes you mad, then they're probably right or very close to right. So that's just one of the keys. If they tell you something and you get defensive, there's a
Mhm.
very good chance they're pointing at something that you need to deal with. Um,
Is there some questions that the viewers watching can ask their friends or their family to kind of help identify these blind spots?
sure. Um, Tell me what my strengths are and tell me what my weaknesses are.
That's
And frankly, both of them are valid.
yeah, yeah,
Because the people in your life, and your coach is one, and your coach is probably more experienced at dealing with some of those questions, but your spouse, your kids, your coworkers, now some of them have vested interests, so you might not get a purely fair answer, because frankly some people have their own issues and they project them on you, and that's really unfortunate, but it happens. I actually go through a lot of this in my blind spot awareness blueprint and recovery guide, which is something that I can make available here at the end.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Okay, so thanks for that, Byron. That was number one. So number two was not having a support system.
Right.
You want to give some examples of what it looks like to have a support system in place, what some of the specific things that they need to do to help them to empower them to keep this change, I guess you could say.
In my experience, the people that need to be in my support system are people who have a similar mindset to where I want to go. And I frankly haven't found very many of them outside of mentorship kinds of situations, or group call kinds of settings, or even one-on-one settings where you've got people who are aware of what's going on, who believe that what you're doing is worth doing, and who are basically going the same way as you are. Having people that aren't going the same way as you are is very difficult to get good support.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that what do they say? It's you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around, or something like that. So, I agree. You need to have the right people around you to help support this change, and that negative energy is definitely not going to help. If you've got the wrong type of people around you, it's just going to make that change a lot harder. All right, so number 3, not having a coach. And being a coach myself, I truly believe that everyone should especially if they're a coach, they should definitely also invest in their own coach. And I mentioned that on my show a few weeks ago when I did a show just by myself on the 7 signs that you shouldn't be a coach, is that if you don't have your own coach.
Right.
So, Byron, if someone was to go out and hire a coach, what are some of the things that they should look for when hiring a coach that's right for them?
I believe that you need to find somebody, in many cases, now maybe not in every case, but in many cases, you need to find somebody who's been through situations that you're going through, who's had experience struggling with the struggles that you are going through, because anybody can read from a book, and it's not the same as having somebody who's been there and done that. One of my struggles was with codependency, and it took me a very long time to understand that. I believe I have a very good handle on what that looks like now, which I didn't have before, when I really could have used it. Trying to control somebody else or trying to take responsibility for someone else's problem is the simplest, and then passive-aggressive is usually a form of codependency. And frankly, I believe that codependency is underneath an awful lot of addictions, and we go through that in one of those systems that I described earlier too.
Thanks. I agree about picking. This is why a lot of coaches, I believe that everyone is an expert in their own right, in their own particular niche, their niche that they go after, and there's a lot of coaches out there that don't leverage their own story. And you mentioned something really pertinent just there on picking a coach that you identify with, that's gone through the same struggles that you are going through. And this is what coaches need to do, is they leverage their own story. So for the people watching, if you're a coach, this is what your clients want. They want someone that has gone through similar challenges that you have gone through, and this positions you as an expert. Therefore, you can start going out into the marketplace and charging a lot more, even if you're just newly certified, just because you're leveraging your own story. So thank you for sharing that, Byron. I completely agree around finding a coach that you identify with that's gone through the same struggles that you have gone through. That makes sense.
Sure.
Cool. So, okay. So can you, if someone, Byron, if someone wanted to get in contact with you to help them through taking the next big step in their life, to help, in business, I mentioned this time and time again that it is 90% mindset. So if someone wants to get in contact with you, Byron, to help them get out of their own way and take these big steps in their business, how can they go about doing that?
Well, my website, one of my websites is takethenextbigstep.com, and I've been working on that a bit and getting some systems and um, products up there as well so that we can offer them directly. It doesn't require talking to anybody to get the either the free one or the opportunity that I will. Well, let me show it. I created the blind spot blueprint that I described earlier, and it's normally listed at $197, but because people are listening to this show, I'm making a significant reduction in investment to a total of $7 if you use the special code, and I believe it's visible. The ZAG190 is the code if you can't see it. TakeTheNextBigStep.com/elite.
Thanks. So they go to also TakeTheNextBigStep.com/elite.
Yes.
Awesome.
And that brings it. There are other ways to get to that product, but that particular link will be the easiest one to remember. So.
Well, so I didn't even know that you're doing this for the people watching. So I appreciate that, Byron. Thank you. So for those watching, it's takethenextbigstep.com/elite, and the code is ZAG190, ZAG190. Thanks for that, Byron. I appreciate that, and for you for coming on and giving up your time on the show today. One of the things that I ask all the entrepreneurs that are on this show is, what do you think is your secret to success?
Don't quit. Frankly, there are enough discouragements and stumbling blocks that it's easy to get part of the way down the road and give up. And if you're going to make a life shift, you have to make a commitment to go all the way through. And that does require a little bit of work from some people. For some, it's easier than others. One of my struggles is being an engineer type. I tend to overthink and overanalyze things, and it takes a little too long for some things to gel in my brain because I'm looking for problems instead of moving forward more quickly, and I'm working on that, making some success in that area. Others may have that struggle as well, and they may be struggling with living in a cubicle, and they really want to escape, but they don't know how, and this is one way.
I agree, and I think I agree with you in the first step that it should be getting a coach. But I love that in saying, don't quit. And you mentioned it right at the start. You can't experience success. I love this saying. You can't experience success if you don't experience failure. I believe the words were. And if you just don't quit and keep moving forward, as long as you learn from your mistakes, I think that's the key. As long as you learn from them and take a different path the next time, that you cannot not be successful. You cannot not be successful. People think success is but it really is. Fail here, go to the next one, but you're failing forward each time. So. Byron, thank you for sharing that piece of wisdom with us, and of course coming on the show and sharing your system with us on how to take the next big step in life and in business. I really appreciate you coming on the show and giving up your time.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries. And for you, the viewer, tuning in again to this week's episode of the Elite Entrepreneur Show. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you took a ton of notes. I know I did. You're writing at the beginning of each show, bringing a pen and paper ready for these elite entrepreneurs that are coming on the show for you, the viewer. So thanks again for giving up your time, because I know you're incredibly busy building your coaching, consulting, speaking, or training business. So this is Luke Charlton. I'll see you next week on the Elite Entrepreneur Show at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at eliteentrepreneurshow.com. See you then. Cheers.